Dexter is an analog horror series by expgoat that explores how much one is willing to lose when attempting to explore the unknown. Set in a laboratory in Mexico, the series centers around a world-altering experiment. What begins as a quest for knowledge quickly spirals into chaos, uncovering the horrors that lie in wait when the boundaries of reality are pushed too far. The story itself is fairly short, but quite complex. So, let's get started. The series begins in Mexico, and its main plot is centered around the CICA, El Centro de Investigación Científica Alterna, or Alternative Science Research Center, a laboratory with the fitting name considering their current project, Portals Between Mirrors. As stated in their own notes, this project aims to travel between alternate realities and even be able to travel to the past and future. This will bring great advances for science. How do they plan to achieve this, you may ask? Well, to answer that question, we receive a very bare bones diagram of their test zone, which includes a mounted wall, a metal exterior for protection, and a mirror which serves the purpose for the portal. Yeah, that's pretty much it. To their surprise, the first test of the experiment was a success, and they managed to make contact with what they believed to be another reality. However, they also found an entity observing them that may serve as a roadblock. It is described as being a lanky dog with an anthropomorphic body, as well as mentioning them having white skin, hinting to the fact that the dog may not have fur at all. The subject is given the name Dexter for no significant reason, says Valentin, an individual involved with conducting the experiments of the portal. He claims Dexter is preventing passage through the portal, so with their next test, he hopes to study the subject and understand it on a deeper level. The first video of the series is a recording of this test, and immediately after powering the mirror, Valentin gets the opportunity he was looking for by coming face to face with the subject. With its sudden appearance, there's a good chance Dexter may have even been waiting for their next encounter. Following this, Valentin begins to ask them questions, but for some reason, the audio from Dexter is stripped from the recording. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear what they sound like, but it's heavily implied that they're fluent in Spanish, considering the response time between questions. During their conversation, it becomes apparent that Dexter is fairly competent, though they lack the understanding of things like jokes and emotions. For example, they are asked if they feel emotions, to which they reply, "Yes, I become hungry." Following up with the question, "Do you feel pain?" Dexter then answers, "Yes, that feeling is different. I'd like to feel it again." This response confuses Valentin, and before he can process it, he's exposed to a haunting sight. Whether it be someone else's doing or their own, Dexter's jaw is completely torn apart. As their audio connection becomes unstable, we can hear screams coming from the subject. They then strike the mirror with their hand or paw, in this case, not really sure what it would be at this point, effectively breaking the mirror, setting the CICA laboratory on lockdown. This is where the first video of the series concludes, but before we move on, there's something else I find fascinating about this story that I want to briefly touch on. With the majority of analog horror series that I've seen, it's very common that we're thrown into a world where the threat, monster, entity already exists and people try to survive, but fell miserably. However, in this series, the threat had no way of reaching Valentine's reality. It was only by CICA's mission to bring great advances for science that they brought this danger to them. I'm aware this is not the first series to do this, nor am I saying one way is better than the other, but I like this approach, and it can make for some great storytelling with the way they set it up. After the tragedy of recent events, the second video opens with a statement from CICA addressing what had occurred and their plans moving forward. We hereby inform you that the project Portals Between Mirrors has been cancelled from any operation. This experiment will be removed and archived. Any questions on the subject will be ignored. Nobody involved has the right to give information. The mirror portal was closed, leaving creature 0002 inside it. 2 never escaped, nor is he hostile. I believe this is a rumor to obtain the cancellation of the project. The CICA laboratory that was assigned for the operation will be fearfully closed due to system failures. We ask for total discretion. I'm gonna go off on a limb here and say this is clearly just a PR move from the CICA in hopes to cover for the disaster of their experiment, as you likely caught on as well. Though it is possible they cancelled the project, I fear it may be too late. Following this statement, we are shown what truly happened. First, we are exposed to this camera shot within the lab at some point after the aftermath. And in Cam 6, we see a shot of Dexter blending into the dark hallway. This pretty much confirms CICA lied about the portal being closed and that 2 had not escaped. In some miracle, Valentine remains alive, and the scene continues through his perspective. Though the situation is dire, he is shown hiding in a room for over 2 hours, doing anything he possibly can to survive this nightmare. After hearing footsteps nearby, he decides to move to a closet that is used to store their archived project files, and he states, "I can't believe there are no more people here. It ate everyone." This line from Valentine couldn't be any more true, as at the point of saying that, he was excluding himself, though he too would meet the same fate as his fellow co-workers. After saying this, Dexter finds him, which jumps to Valentine running away, his mind racing and fear in his voice. He manages to reach the exit of the laboratory, though it appears he had been tricked, as what he thought was the exit was the portal. Once realizing this, he is left in a state of shock, as he turns back to see Dexter. This could actually be a reference to Dexter's response in the first video. When asked, "How do you feel today?" he says, "Stunned." It honestly felt so out of the blue when watching it initially, but it being Dexter's first feeling when meeting Valentine, and it being Valentine's last feeling, is pretty neat. So after Dexter corners him, it's inferred from the visuals that he's attacked and killed. I have to say, when analyzing this story, everything up till this point made complete sense to me, but we receive a report from the CICA immediately following this tragic demise of Valentine that totally stumped me. The context of the message feels so random when juxtaposed with this event. At the time, it didn't make sense to me and made me question everything. Thankfully, after sitting in this state for a while, I began theory crafting and developed one I believe is very close to the truth, though it involves events that occur in the third video, so I'll read the report now, but I'll explain it later. Portals Between Mirrors. The project Portals Between Mirrors is a success. It was possible to introduce a human being into the mirror dimension. There are still flaws. The subject can't identify when he is within the dimension. Creature 2 appears to be non-hostile. The dimension of the mirror is 95% unknown. It may be a replica of this same space. We will continue to follow up, and each aspect mentioned will be analyzed. The advancement of science is becoming greater and greater. This announcement marks the end of the second video, and for the third video, we jump between past and present events. First, we are introduced to a new subject, B0N32A. It's 7 meters tall, whose type is unknown, but from an anonymous source they claim it's very hostile and smells of rotten meat. This is then interrupted by a section titled First Contact, where we revisit the conversation that Valentin and Dexter had in the first tape, though this time we see it from the perspective of 0002. An assortment of visuals are then displayed with subtle text that helps us understand the importance of Dexter in the story. His prey tried to flee, but his jaw was faster. It can sniff out a wounded body. It knows perfectly where to cut. Every death is necessary. Every death is in the name of science. These are the line of text shown that describe Dexter as being intelligent as well as a ruthless killer, but there's a secret when reading between the lines. Notice how, when piecing them together, the message is written in third person. 2 is not saying this about themselves, in fact, it's someone else. Judging by the final sentence, it's likely a scientist that is so obsessed with the research of the portal that they are willing to sacrifice human lives for it. I have a suspicion on who this may be, and they are introduced to the story via a note from someone close to Valentin, dated in 1982. Poor Valentin, he didn't deserve this. Sir Dozna says, "It doesn't matter what we see, it's all because of science. There's not much I can do. They sent my friend to that portal with that damn dog. We haven't had a sign of Valentin since. Every night I feel guilty. I know I could have done something." As you may know by now, Sir Dozna is who I expect is the mad scientist, tirelessly studying 0002 from a distance. The note suggests he is the one calling the shots. I mean, read these 2 lines and tell me it's not the exact same person. In order to understand the rest of the letter, it's time we begin to unravel the truth of this report. I'm about to throw a metric ton of information at you, so I'll try to make it as digestible as I possibly can. Apologies in advance. So, in the note, Valentin's friend and possible co-worker is grieving about his disappearance after he claims they, as in Sir Dozna, sent him through the portal with a dog, and his whereabouts are yet to be known. Well, that makes absolutely no sense, because we saw Valentin die along with everyone in the lab at the hands of Dexter after the incident of the first tape. But what if both are true? You see, we as the viewer are shown this report following Valentin's death. However, it actually comes sometime before. I'll skim through it once more. Portals between mirrors. The project Portal Between Mirrors is a success. It was possible to introduce a human being into the mirror dimension. There are still flaws. The subject can't identify when he is within the dimension. Creature 2 appears to be non-hostile. The dimension of the mirror is 95% unknown. It may be a replica of the same space. We will continue to follow up, and each aspect mentioned will be analyzed. The advancement of science is becoming greater and greater. The most valuable piece of information here is that the scientists of CICA had discovered a mirror dimension, and they introduced a human being into it, and we know Valentin is the one they sent because of the note. This means everything that happened to him had to have happened on the other side, because in the note, his friend mentioned he was sent in, and we haven't seen any sign of Valentin since. So when did this happen in the timeline, and how? Well, for starters, in the first contact interaction, Valentin was friendly to Dexter. He says before they powered up the mirror that his appearance is disturbing at first, but you'll get used to it. He calls them a friend when speaking. Although terrified, I believe he went into it because he saw 2 as a roadblock and wanted to advance their research. He constructed this false idea of Dexter that was a fatal error on his part. At the end of the first tape, we learn of the experiment going wrong, and they tell the public that they are shutting down the project and closing the portal. But that was clearly a lie, and Although they managed to fix the portal, they continued testing. This is when they sent Valentin to the mirror dimension. Immediately following this, they make this report and the story starts making a lot more sense. It's early in their research, so they don't know much about the other side. They successfully sent him in, while on the other side, everything looks the same and he has no idea he is even in there. This is why he mentions none of this when he is hiding. In the end, he is killed close to the portal, but on the other side, which is why they have no update on him. The report ends with another message about advancing science, which furthers my point about Sir Dozna being some crazy scientist. Oh, and there's one more thing that I've kept from you. At the end of the first video, there is a message in Morse code that reads, CICA needs your help, experiment 0002, yours. The reason I refrained from bringing this up is because there's no way we would have understood the meaning of this based off a single tape, and I still don't know if we can. I speculate it's Sir Dozna saying in order to understand the mirror dimension, Dexter is their key, but I could be completely wrong here. Let me know if you've thought of something different that this could mean. Anyways, this is everything I've discovered when unraveling this obscure report, and we can continue with what is left of the story. C. Seguridad especializada en anomalías, or security specialized in anomalies, are the ones that brought up the new subject. And after picking up a signal, they are assigned a new mission. The C team will enter the portal. This is with the purpose of finding the test subject. Yesterday, we noticed the existence of a message in Morse code. This could mean it is possible to live inside the portal. We asked the CICA team in the most attentive way to be attentive to the call and prepare the necessary tools before midnight. Thank you for your time. And after entering, this is the report. The C team went in and found his remains close to the entrance. The man had no face. It had been torn off by the dog. At the same time, the subject's body was being absorbed by the ground. This is a new behavior we have yet to fully understand. The location of the dog is unknown. Notice 0002, the operation was a success. The CT managed to exit the portal. We still do not know where Creature 2 is. Investigation will continue. Bond 32A. The Bond 32A anomaly is being observed by our best scientists. The results of the analysis will be available soon. Our scientific community can rest assured no more cases have been reported. Everything is under control. For their greater peace of mind, the C and CICA organizations provide them with the best medical care in the country. C-Team go into the mirror dimension and find Valentin's remains, exactly where we last saw him alive. Them mentioning that his flesh was being absorbed by the ground could be hinting as to why specimen Bond 32A smells the way they do. To summarize, they are continuing the investigation of 0002 and are currently studying Bond 32A, which is where we jump to now. Bond 32A is being experimented on, and just as the future for the CICA begins to burn bright, things at the facility could not go any more wrong. As the devil is effectively introduced into their own world, Dexter climbs out of the mirror and begins his rampage. This is the final nail in the coffin that completes my theory, because this is what the portal would look like if Dexter climbed out of it. Not like this. This marks the end of the third video, and all that is left is a teaser of what's to come, where they show a door with the label Experiment 0001, as well as a silhouette of what it looks like. Even though the runtime for this series is short, the story itself is very dense, and I found myself theory crafting a lot just to come up with something that worked. That being said, I really enjoyed this series and I hope you did as well. As always, go support the creator, their link is in the description, and if you like videos like this one, I would appreciate if you subscribe to the channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Take care and I'll see you in the next one.